Welcome to the Bright Wings Transformational Show. This is Nancy Boyd, your host. Get ready for some transformation. So first, I'd like to introduce my friends, Gail and Gregory Hoag, whom I met recently, and who introduced me to these products that they created, about which I am extremely excited. And I invited them today to discuss with us some questions I had about them and that might prove useful for you in thinking about and exploring what they have done and how they might benefit your life. So, are you ready to go?
We are. We're here.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much for being here for this. One of my first questions is, why were these products created? What brought you to this?
Okay.
That's a great question. I think I'll take a stab at that one first. These products are very much about our spiritual journey, all of us. And so this has not been one of those academic kinds of occupations. It's been very spirit driven. And both Gregory and I have felt that our life has a purpose that we were given a long time ago. And actually, Nancy, when we met, which was 37 years ago, a little over 37 and a half years ago, we recognized that we had work to do. And we got together like right away to begin that work. And what happened, which was a very funny story, was that I met Gregory in a house that he had just sold, and I was renting out an art studio in that house from a friend who was had taken it over, and she was restoring the home. And he was carrying around this beautiful box of geometries. And I looked at those and I said, "Oh my gosh, you must know the work of Buckminster Fuller." And he said, "No, actually, I don't." So I said, "Well, you need to know his work, because these were these beautiful forms that had all these different tetrahedrons." And I had been studying Fuller's work for many, many years, was really engaged with his brilliance, his technology, all the things that he brought to us. And after Fuller passed away, through my spiritual work, I had started to open up my channel to be able to tap into higher consciousness. So I put out to the universe and to the former being of Buckminster Fuller and asked if I could have contact with him, if he was willing to teach me more. And when I sat in meditation, he came to me and I started getting all these wonderful lessons. Got to a point where I was getting so much technical information that I said, wait a minute, this is way beyond my capability. Either send me someone who can do something with this, this wonderful information, or maybe we just need to kind of tamp it down. Well, it was not probably more than a week or two after that request that I met this guy. And so I told him that I was going to be doing some channeling of that energy of Bucky and asked if he'd like to join us. And he said yes. And that kind of kicked all of this in gear. Part of the recognition that we had work to do together. And so I'll let him kind of quickly tell his story of how he got into being able to see and create a variety of different kinds of geometries.
Well, even before you start that, I want to say thank you so much, because that is a fascinating story. I had no idea about that, but it's just a joyful element that you bring from the perspective of such a close connection with Buckminster Fuller, who was such a gifted person here in our world.
Yes, he was.
He was. And I didn't know about him because all these geometries that I was building, I didn't know about sacred geometry. I couldn't even give you the names of the platonic solids. I was building things that I was being shown by spirit. And I had opened up to that after, about 10 years of working with different spiritual masters. I built a pyramid with a friend that in 1980 cost over 50,000 to build. And it put me through a lot of Kundalini. That's
Mhm.
an energy coming up from the
Right.
earth. And it is, you laugh a little bit because it's intense. And it was literally burning holes in my feet and in my hands from just the energy moving through my body so strongly. And what happened was I was starting to connect with higher dimensional beings, and they started sharing information with me, and I was building what they were showing me. So I was walking around with this box of, see my toys, what do you think of them? Because in college, I studied the sciences. And so the scientific part of me was going, what's going on with these things? Because people felt energy when they picked them up, when they played with them. And that really confused me. I didn't know what was going on. But slowly it was coming in. And actually, I'd taken a class a year before I met Gail, and someone had given me a card that she had made. She made a couple,
Oh,
and they
wow.
said, you need to meet this woman. So it was a handmade card. I put it in my wallet. It was the only card I had in my wallet. And after we'd been going together a couple weeks, I pulled it out and I said, this is you, right? And so universe always has a backup plan if we don't follow instructions the first time. So that's how we got together and into this.
Yeah. And we knew right away that these were really important tools. And we started out with some very basic things. We didn't have, that much to start with. However, we really felt very, very driven and very guided to get this, get these creations made. And, we were making a lot of this stuff ourselves and get it out to people, teach them about it. So that was 37 years ago. And here we are.
Oh, that
We're
is
still
so
doing
great.
this.
It's such a great story. And I'm sure there's a lot more you could say about how that proceeded from there. That's a fabulous story. So thank you for sharing that part. One of the questions that I had before we came on this call, and I have been thinking about this ever since you and I connected and was able to begin sharing your products with my audiences, is what can you say about how these tools that you have created and you've worked with for quite a long time now, and knowing what intense times that we're living through right now and how many ways that we're being challenged globally, I would say, how can these tools really help people get through these tough times that we're all facing? What are the gifts they can give us to support and assist us?
Yeah. Well, let me start with an answer that all of the tools that we create and everything that we teach about is to be able to recognize ourselves as multidimensional beings. So, even though we all have, our mundane lives and, we go shopping and buy food and, we have our families and everything, we are so much more than that. And it's so important for us to be able to more easily access those qualities of who we are at some of these higher dimensional levels. And it's not anything strange or woo-woo or anything. It's just a question of, we are creative beings, we are conscious beings, we are spiritual beings, we have souls, we have so much access that's far beyond what we were taught in our regular family life and in our schools and many of the things that we've done in our jobs. So our work is here to support people to be able to be more intuitive, more aligned with those higher levels of their thinking, their dreams, their visions, their creative capabilities. And so it's almost like these tools are a pathway, a highway to those levels of ourselves, so that we're not so distracted by everything that's going on in modern life, from EMFs to, all of the fear and the challenges and the difficulties. Those things cut us off from who we fully are. And so these technologies are to help us be fully human. And
Okay,
from
and
here, I'm
I
going
want
to
to
let
Gregory ask
go.
about that. I want to
Okay.
ask more about that, and I think you will have more to say about it. And I really get that, and I'm so happy to be participating with these tools for that very reason, because that's my purpose too, to help uplift our consciousness in the world. But let's say that particularly in recent times when we're recording this, there are some serious events in the world that have people very emotional, let's say. There have been a rash of mass shootings, and that topic is up in most people's consciousness. So when we're immediately threatened with something big in our lives, what are the gifts that these tools can help us with? How do we get through this? How does a higher consciousness help us in an immediate crisis? I guess that's the best question.
Yeah.
Well, I have a slideshow prepared that will help lay a lot of this out. But to answer your immediate question is, first of all, you need to look at the situation from a higher perspective. You need to put it in context. You need to understand that human beings have been going through a lot of garbage for a long time. And, we have problems today. They had problems yesterday. They had problems thousands of years ago, over 10,000 years ago. It's like human beings are an evolving species, and they're still very immature. That's why we have these problems. That's why, as more and more of the energy is going off today, and when I say the energy is going off, I'm going to share with you some slides that show how the electromagnetic frequencies keep us from connecting to who we truly are. The toxins in the environment,
Great.
the things that we're doing with the technologies around us are starting to disconnect people so much that we're having more and more sociopathic behavior. It's going up. You can look at charts where you're seeing that there's an unprecedented rise of people that are lacking in compassion, lacking in empathy, lacking in just common sense and judgment, because they are not able to think clearly. They're not able to touch into their heart center and go beyond that to who they truly are. And if human beings discover who they truly are, it is that which is everything, that which is so connected that to hurt anything in our environment is to hurt ourselves. To disregard, disrespect anything in our environment is to disregard, disrespect ourselves. And that makes us smaller and puts us more into that pain, more into that fear. And it's very difficult to get out of once we're in that well of darkness. So what we're doing, and I'll put it in a nutshell, is working with the way the universe is created. And by that, I mean there are patterns, rhythms, cycles. The moon follows particular rhythms and cycles, and it has a particular diameter and a particular geometry. And so does the earth, and so does the sun. And I can show you how all of these elements, the sun, the moon, the earth, relate to different geometries. And when we work with those geometries in our environment, we start resonating. You know, we know that if we want to get something to happen in our lives, we need to raise our vibration. We need to get to a place where we start vibrating at a higher vibrational level.
Yeah. And we're going to go over this in this slideshow that he's got. It will pinpoint and back up what he's saying. And I think you're going to love it.
Oh, that was a
So-
beautiful answer. And I really appreciate it because it's exactly what I had hoped you would say. And it's something that everyone needs to hear. We need to understand this.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is. It's time for us to evolve to another level spiritually. And that's what we were both pulled through and pulled into connection with each other for, so that we could, through our unity together, become more than what we were alone, and to be able to bring through information that we can build these tools, and we call them tools. They vibrate with a higher vibrational energy. They can shift the person's field that they're around, so that person starts to vibrate at a level that's above the fear, that's above the confusion, that's outside of that toxic level of disconnect that we're all experiencing in modern life. And when we're in that higher vibrational state, our intuition improves, our health improves, our vision improves, our ability to just create improves, because we don't create from this dimension. This is a dimension of effects. It's what we see after the fact. We create from that higher position of soul.
Yeah.
So you think I should start?
I
the
think we should
slideshow?
start because you're going to
Okay.
love this.
Great.
And
Okay.
if you want to ask us some questions while we're moving around along on this, just go ahead, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So, all right. So this is what I was talking about. You see, 99.9999. There are 4 nines. That percentage of everything around us is pure energy. And it's important to understand that that means that only 0.00000, that's 5 zeros, 1%, that's what we see and touch. That's what's going back and forth, Nancy, when you're talking to us and we're seeing each other. That's only a small fraction of the energy that's flowing through us, around us, everywhere. And so we need to understand that this energy follows particular patterns. That's how it flows. That's how it moves. And so there are templates, patterns, designs that the energy follows when it coalesces into matter. And when it comes into matter, these divine patterns are what we call sacred geometry. So everything in our environment, in our reality, is sacred geometry. It's a universal language. It's found everywhere on the other side of the universe. We could talk to beings using this language because everything follows these patterns. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we can, as human beings, follow those patterns too. From atoms, molecules, the DNA within our cells follow particular patterns. The planets, the sun, the stars, the galaxies, they all even connect with each other through universal patterns that the astrologers understand. And it's amazing to watch it play out. These are something called the Platonic solids. There are 5 of them. They're very regular, made up of triangles, squares, and pentagons. There are only 5. They all have identical faces, each one. They're either all triangles or all pentagons or whatever. And they all have the same angles and edges touching each other. They're named after the Greek philosopher Plato, and they were considered the building blocks of everything in creation. However, they were known long before Plato, but the question is, how old are they? And what I'm going to share with you now is if you take the number of degrees on the face of each side of a tetrahedron and you add them all up, you get 720 degrees. That's 180 degrees on each face. So if you add those degrees to an octahedron, to a dodecahedron, you get a total of 8,640 degrees. If you multiply that by 100, you can multiply things by factors of 10, and they are still resonant with each other. Even though it's like you add more zeros, the root number you stay resonant with. So if we add 2 more zeros, that is equal to the diameter of the sun, 864,000 miles. Well, if you take the tetrahedron plus an octahedron and you throw in the cube and the icosahedron, you're going to get, in degrees, the number of miles in the diameter of the Earth. And this isn't roughly, this is, if you go there are particular measurements you can take, and if you smush it into a smooth ball, it's exactly 7,920 miles in diameter. And you take a cube, 2,160 degrees, that's equal to the diameter of the moon. So the moon's following this pattern, the sun, the earth. And what that is really pointing out to us, well, first I want to say all these numbers, when you add them up, 720, 7 plus 2 equals 9. All these numbers, 1 plus 4 plus 4, they all reduce to 9. This is another aspect that's important to understand, that all sacred numbers reduce to 9, because when we look at the numbers 1 through 9, after that they start repeating. It's 1 plus 0, 1 plus, they kind of just repeat. But 9 is a completion number. So you'll always find the importance of 9 in sacred numbers. But the Platonic solids existed before the sun, the earth, the moon, because they're all modeled after the degrees found in these forms. So these forms existed before. That means they're divine archetypes. That's what I mean by an archetype, that which the universe follows from the energetic field, from that quantum field where everything exists. There are patterns that the universe follows. And so we can start to understand and follow those patterns too. And so, excuse me, you see here, when we look at the diameter of the moon, we can see that the measure in miles, it's a harmonic of time when you look at each zodiacal sign, lasts 2,160 years. We just are moving into the age of Aquarius. We just came out of Pisces. Each one of these ages is exactly 2,160 years long. That's equal to the number of miles in the moon's diameter. That's the number of degrees in the cube of space. So if we start working with a cube, we're working with these other energies as well. And so that's what we're talking about. How do we build harmonics around us in our life that starts helping us resonate, vibrate with everything in the universe? We can start to connect with something bigger.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please follow, subscribe, and share with your friends.